Now, I want you to cast your minds back to 3rd of June, 2024. It was a warm summer morning, and Nigel Farage tweeted that he was about to make an emergency announcement. Even had that siren emoji. In front of a stunned media, he announced his candidacy to be the Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea. And he announced that he would return to lead Reform UK. Back then, the bookies gave him a 30% chance of becoming the MP for Clacton. Fast forward to today. Just look around you. Look what we've achieved together. Reform has hundreds of thousands of members. We've created almost 500 branches across the country. We've made history, sweeping the board in the local elections last May, and now have almost 1,000 Reform councillors. We've led 250 national polls in a row. And ladies and gentlemen, Nigel Farage is the bookmaker's favourite to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But I need to be honest. We gather at a dark time for our country. For years, the Tory and Labour Uni-Party has looked the other way, while the very fabric of our society has been under attack. We've been told to accept open borders, that a country that spends £60 billion a year on defence should stand powerless as men arrive in small boats day after day, that we should shrug as our streets change, knife crime rises, and the tradition and culture of Britain are steadily, heartbreakingly eroded. Well, I want to say to you today, those things are not inevitable. They are the deliberate choices of weak men and women who lack the courage, lack the spine, and lack the moral clarity to defend the country they were elected to serve. Well, here's the thing. I don't accept this. Nigel Farage does not accept this. And I know that you do not accept this. That's why a Reform government will end it. You know, the system in this country is so broken, so morally bankrupt, that committing serious violent crimes improves a foreign national's likelihood of being granted asylum in this country. Now, I want to repeat that because it beggars belief. Committing brutal crimes against British people makes it easier for migrants to stay in Britain. Look, there are countless examples. A Zimbabwean paedophile jailed for horrific child sex offences was allowed to stay because judges cited Article 3 of the ECHR. They argued that he would face hostility in his home country as an openly gay man. An Albanian drug lord jailed for running an illicit drugs factory avoided deportation after judges ruled under Article 8 of the ECHR that kicking him out would deprive his daughter of a male role model. Now, I want you to think about the moral sickness of that decision. A convicted, organized drug kingpin held up as an essential, protected role model by British judges. A Ugandan gang member who clubbed a man to death in the back of an ambulance, a man who received a life sentence for murder, successfully won the right to stay in Britain to protect his mental health. His lawyers successfully used Article 3 of the ECHR to argue it would be inhumane to send him back to a country with poorer mental health facilities than our NHS. This man barbarically took a life, and the British taxpayer is now forced to cater for his mental wellness. How many more people must die at the hands of those who should never have been in our country in the first place? Well, I want to promise you this. When Nigel Farage becomes our Prime Minister, gone will be the days when your rights are trampled in service of foreign citizens. Never again will British people be a second-class citizen in their own country. Under a reform government, His Majesty's Parliament will be sovereign once again, and the rights of the great British people will reign supreme. And a reform government led by Nigel will also confront the truth that our country is being invaded. And I know many in the establishment gasp at that word. They'll clutch their pearls in their television studios. But the dictionary definition of invasion is an incursion by a large number of people in an unwanted way. Almost 200,000 people have broken into our country across the English Channel over the last 8 years, more than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Make no mistake, as Home Secretary, I will end and reverse this invasion. Look, the patience of the British people is now exhausted. We're unwilling to accept that Britain's borders should just remain open and undefended, unwilling to accept that Britain must surrender its sovereignty to foreign courts. This is a national emergency. It is time to put the British people first. That's why, upon winning the next election, a reform government will launch an unprecedented emergency program to track down, detain, and deport all illegal migrants in the United Kingdom. I have no hesitation in telling you that Operation Restoring Justice will be the most transformative policy of our lifetimes. Now, shrill voices in the media have already called our plan draconian. Our response? Britain is being invaded. Tens of thousands of military-aged men continue to arrive on our beaches illegally. Our plan is the only appropriate response to a national security emergency. We will immediately stop the boats by sending a crystal clear message that being in our country illegally now has an ironclad consequence: immediate detention and removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent. As Prime Minister, Nigel Farage will direct every instrument of state to ensure illegal migrants are removed from this country. We will pass the Illegal Migration Mass-Deportation Act. And I want to tell you that the draftsmen who worked on this legislation were given a clear and strict instruction that when Nigel is Prime Minister, there will not be an activist judge in the country that will be able to prevent a single deportation flight from leaving. We will create a legal obligation for the Home Secretary to deport all those in this country illegally and disapply all international treaties that are used to keep illegal migrants in this country. And we will pass a law that makes clear that if you come to this country illegally, you will never be granted asylum. End of story. We will create a new agency, UK Deportation Command. We'll have just one mission: to relentlessly track down, detain, and deport all those in this country illegally. We will embark on the most audacious charter flight operation since World War II, ramping deportation flights to 5 flights every single day. And to guarantee success, His Majesty's Royal Air Force will keep a Voyager aircraft on standby as a hot spare. So even if a plane has mechanical issues, flights will not be stopped. Deportations will not be delayed. Return agreements will be secured. Countries of origin will take back their nationals. If a country refuses, we'll simply stop issuing visas to that country. That's why, as Home Secretary, I will immediately cease the issuance of visas for countries including Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea, Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Look, this is about the very soul of our nation. For centuries, Britain has proudly been a high-trust culture. British people looked out for their neighbours. They respected the law, not out of fear, but out of a shared sense of civic duty. But as untold numbers of people from low-trust cultures with entirely different values have been imported into our country, that precious, fragile trust is breaking down. Look at the indignities we now face. Northamptonshire Police recently had to give a presentation, and I'm not making this up. They had to give a presentation to illegal migrants who were, by the way, sitting comfortably in a taxpayer-funded hotel. And they had to explain to grown men that women have equal rights to men in Britain. The presentation implored the illegal migrants to only walk on the pavement and warned them that, yes, human rights exist in this country. They had to inform them that committing crimes may affect their asylum applications. May affect their asylum application. The fact that this is deemed necessary is a national outrage. It tragically encapsulates the stupidity of allowing people into this country whose core values are fundamentally, and yes, sometimes violently, at odds with ours. Reform values the traditions that built this nation and will never apologize for our history. We'll defend our culture, because a nation without a culture isn't a nation at all. It's just an economic zone, a shopping mall with a flag waiting to be exploited. That's why we will protect the Christian heritage of Britain. We will end the incendiary practice we will end the incendiary practice of converting churches into mosques. I'm proud to announce that a reform government will immediately grant listed status to all churches and create a new statutory use category for Christian places of worship to ensure that these historic pillars of our communities can never be converted into places of worship for any other faith. And a reform government will also do something that Labour obviously refused to do, and the Tories failed to do in their 14 years in government. We will run an accelerated inquiry through a committee in Parliament to get to the bottom of the despicable crimes of the rape gangs that terrorise young girls in this country for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, we will leave no stone unturned to ensure justice for the victims and their families. We will ensure that the demonic perpetrators and the officials who enabled them by turning a blind eye are brought to justice and are made to pay a heavy price for their crimes. And look, having built and run a successful business in this great country, I know that human beings respond to incentives. For too long, witless politicians have created an incentive for people to come to Britain and take advantage of the goodwill of the lovely British people. British taxpayer funds should be spent exclusively for the benefit of British people. The British welfare state should be available exclusively for British people. It is a slap in the face to every working man and woman in this country that British taxpayers have been forced to spend 15 billion pounds on universal credit welfare payments to foreign households in the last 18 months alone. Think of the state-of-the-art hospitals that money could have built, the thousands of police officers it could have put on our streets, the tax cuts it could have delivered to struggling British families. We will stop this hemorrhage of our national wealth. A reform government will immediately terminate welfare payments to foreign nationals. Now, you may have noticed that as the prospect of a reform government gets more real, as poll after poll shows a commanding reform lead, the attacks from the establishment grow ever louder. Thankfully, we have someone to inspire us. He certainly inspired me. I think he's inspired you. He's inspired millions upon millions more across this great country. We have a leader who loves this country, who has spent most of his adult life campaigning for the interests of the British people. He came out of retirement by popular demand to take his place as a leader who will lead us out of despair and into a state of hope for this country. He will face down those who seek to destroy us. He will not be deterred by slurs or milkshakes. And just as he took on the banks and won, just as he took on the European Union won, now he will lead us as we take on the elite political class, and we will win. I want to underscore this. I want to make sure I'm clear about this, because I've seen how hard he works for us. He leads us on this journey at immense personal cost. He carries a heavy burden on his shoulders for us, and he does so with the grace and good humor as only Nigel can. And I want to take a moment to say thank you for that. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you for giving us hope, and thank you for giving us something to believe in again. Now, they say that politics is about choices. You heard that phrase? Yeah, well, I agree with that. So let's put our cards on the table. If you ask a reform government to choose between the safety of our women and girls and an international treaty, to choose between a secure border and an international treaty, to choose between a sovereign United Kingdom and an international treaty, then we choose security, we choose sovereignty, and yes, we will protect our women and girls. To hell with your international treaty. And I want to close by saying thank you to all of you. We've already made history together. We've already defied the odds together, defeated many enemies together. And all of this because of you. The path ahead remains long, and I've got to be honest, it remains treacherous. The attacks from all angles will only grow. But we need your help to ensure we have a full slate of candidates for the local elections in May. This is your chance to join us in the cockpit and chart a course with us to save our country. So if you're interested, see one of our team as you leave tonight. But I want to end with a promise to all of you. If we stay the course, if we stick together, if we find it in ourselves to rise and master this moment, we will sweep the board again in May, win the next general election, and together we will change the course of British history.